Hey everyone, welcome to another exciting episode of Talking Point with me, Papri Das. Since its inception, BBC Worldwide has not only managed to bring successful international formats to India, but also emerged as a full-fledged production house with homegrown shows to boot. It wasn't easy, and the one person who led the organization through these testing times is Myleeta Aga, the Senior Vice President and General Manager of BBC Worldwide India. And today, she's with us for a little chat. Hi Myleeta, welcome to our show. When you first came to BBC Worldwide India, what was your goal for the next couple of years and have you been able to achieve them?
When I joined BBC Worldwide India, we were primarily a format production company. And my first thoughts were that, to be a part of the production community in India, you needed to be able to do more than just formats. You needed to do productions for non-fiction that you grow yourself, homegrown productions, expand into fiction, and look at things like branded content. So, it's been a long journey, but the production business has certainly grown in all of those areas, so I feel good about that. And we've also expanded our operations, BBC Worldwide's operations in India.
What challenges do you think you faced while going through all this?
BBC Worldwide is a very particular company because we are associated with the BBC, which is a public service broadcaster in the UK. So there are there's a great amount of awareness around the brand in India. Outside of the UK, this is the country where recognition for the BBC brand is the highest. But at the same time, that comes with a lot of responsibility to manage the brand well, to keep the quality, to keep the integrity of the brand intact while growing commercially. And that's a balancing act that we've had to manage over the years.
Since it is such a big brand and you mentioned that the awareness is so widespread here in India, so did you also have to meet certain expectations?
I think broadcasters are increasingly expecting the same amount of quality, integrity, attention to detail of all producers. So I won't judge others. All I can say is that yes, we have evolved in the production business certainly, where a broadcaster feels very comfortable working with BBC because they know that we will be able to manage scale, be able to manage large projects and still maintain quality. We can be innovative without compromising on standards. Yeah. For example, every year on Jhalak is only getting bigger. And that's probably the same for many other shows, whether it's fiction, non-fiction, both.
Do you think BBC as a parent company also has certain regulations in terms of exploring the kind of content you can do here?
BBC, of course, is very particular about maintaining the promise of the brand. But if you look at our TV sales business, so this is not the production business, this is the business where we sell programs to third-party broadcasters, like Sherlock is with AXN, that's a BBC show, or Top Gear, which is also with AXN, or Doctor Who, which is doing so well for FX. We have been able to look at packaging and looking at content differently so that it suits the way that consumers consume content in India. So we look at how consumers want to consume BBC content in India, and then we customize packages for broadcasters to reflect that. Yeah. One of the recent deals that we've done is with Tata Sky, where they've launched an on-demand service. And they've recognized that BBC is associated with a lot of classic shows as well as some new innovative ones. So how we put those together and made it available for a consumer in a way that they can pull it out when they want it, on demand basically. So we have a lot of flexibility around that as long as we stay within the promise of the brand.
Do you think that broadcasters give you as much freedom to work with the content and tweak it accordingly when it comes to show formats and developing shows for them?
It's a partnership. So whenever we work on a production, our understanding of the content is what makes us good producers. And a broadcaster's understanding of the audience is what makes them a very valuable partner in bringing everything together. So honestly, we see it as a partnership. You can't make a successful television property if you're not working together between broadcaster and content producer.
In terms of consumers, do you think the content that they want right now is shifting?
We're working a lot in the youth space. So we are doing the top daily soap on MTV, Kaisi Hai Arya. We have also got a weekly show on Bindas called Nach, which is following a troupe of dancers to the world of dance in LA. And we're also doing daily on Doordarshan, which is around young love, a budding romance. So we feel that the younger audiences offer us the opportunity as content creators to be more innovative and to push the boundaries. And we found that the more we push them, the more the audience seems to like the content. So I think we're quite comfortable with making, pushing and trying to bring out more real issues. So in some of our shows, we've dealt with teenage pregnancy, we've dealt with same-sex relationships, so those are things kids are talking about, but we're not necessarily talking about on GCs. So sometimes when you talk to a younger audience, you can address more of that than you can with a typical GC show.
There were rumors flying around that, and in a couple of years we will also get our own Game of Thrones. But do you think that is possible with the kind of technology and the kind of script we have available?
I think we've already done that, haven't we? I think we've made fabulous television. It's not necessary that it needs to be interpreted in the same way that you interpret shows that come out of Hollywood. If you look at our film industry, we're just as innovative, I would say. It's just for a different audience. So will we make a Game of Thrones? We'll make our own interpretation of it, is how I'd like to see it. And I think we will be headed in that direction. It's probably the economic environment for that kind of content in India right now is not ready. I think probably a couple of years.
Most of the Western shows we see that there's a specific lifespan to it, like they have like 24 episodes or 50 episodes maybe. Maybe if it's popular, they produce another season for that. Do you think that India can get used to it and that kind of...
We're already doing that. I think every major GC at the moment is looking at content like that. In non-fiction, of course, it's been around for a long time. In fiction, increasingly. I mean, again, there is a certain viewing habit that the GC audience has. So breaking that habit is not instant. So I think it will eventually be driven by the content being interesting and worth watching for the limited period of time, and the economics of it should work.
Do you think that it will give way to a higher value production?
Absolutely. I think, producing a daily soap 5 days a week or 6 days a week over a period of 1, 2, 3 years is bound to consistently, without any seasonal breaks, is bound to affect the quality at some point. I mean, I think we do a remarkable job of maintaining quality given the circumstances and the budgets. But of course, if you have 24 or 26 episodes, your ability to be prepared for everything that you're filming and editing and being able to bring the story together cohesively is going to be much greater. So, yeah.
Tell me, what do you think were the benchmarks when it comes to television and production?
Game changers, there haven't been that many. I think that's probably what I would say, is that a lot of change happens more gradually, and particularly when it comes to audiences and watching television, because it's habit forming. So I think we are moving away from 5-year-long daily soaps to 2-year-long daily soaps. Maybe now we'll get into more shorter fiction series, and we're already experimenting in that. All broadcasters are looking at that. I think the comfort in dealing with difficult issues being slightly less traditional in the views that are expressed by our fictional characters. There's, everybody's pushing to see where you can be more innovative and disruptive, but a massive moment of change hasn't happened. I can't think of one.
Do you think other shows which have been produced here are popular outside internationally? You must have an idea of what the viewership outside is and what kind of content they like from India.
I think the Indian diaspora obviously responds really well to Indian content, but going beyond that, I don't know that we've really been able to deliver something that gives a global English-speaking audience it has to be comparable then to something that comes out of the studios in LA, right? Or the UK. And I don't know if we've been able to invest enough in our content for it to stand up to that. In certain smaller markets, we've been able to do that, and certainly the Indian diaspora outside India is pretty huge. Yes. So that in itself, we've been obviously very successful at doing. But I think one example I can cite is the Z's original channel for the US, where I think they've really been able to bring something unique to the wider audience.
If you have an opportunity now to work, say, in London, operate from there, would you choose that over working here?
Depends on the role. I mean, I think we're living in a very interesting time for television in India. I mean, the proliferation of channels, the amount of different ways to look at content, the number of different ways to look at content, the opportunity to be innovative is phenomenal. So, I mean, I think what we're doing in video on demand, for example, or what channels are doing with their storytelling, all of that is changing, and it's great to be part of that.
This is a wrap, and thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.